first question, what is business transformation?
So business transformation from my perspective is first off very holistic, and a lot of organizations are lacking focus in some of the areas, but ultimately it's about defining what this better state is that they're pursuing and looking at all of the aspects, the entire operating model, how funding and investment decisions are made, hiring practices, compensation, incentives, bonuses, role structures. And notice I haven't mentioned anything about technology or process yet. Certainly that's all a part of it, but it's a very complex space. And I think that's one of the challenges where a lot of organizations have fallen short. Richard, what would you add?
Yeah, I'd agree. It's certainly challenging. You know, the term business transformation carries a lot of potential sub-definitions, right? The transformation word itself is really about kind of fundamentally changing who we are, how we operate, et cetera. And I think most organizations are finding that they're being confronted by internal needs, external forces, et cetera. And the need for change and transformation is growing and is present. And you know, there's a lot of talk around different types of transformations. I think they all have some, similar factors, as Randy just mentioned. There's not a single clear definition of that, but literally looking at the need to change and to be able to thrive is, I think, paramount these days.
So when you're looking at things like changing the funding model and hiring structures and organizational structures, that sounds like a huge investment of time and resources, and can cause a lot of, definitely a lot of changes. Why would an organization want to undertake something like this?
Yeah, it can be, and typically is, a huge investment. And for some organizations, it's not an option, right? So if we're trying to adapt to a dynamic market, for example, if the market is moving faster than we are, we're losing market share, we're being threatened by competitors, we're losing customers, right? That is compelling purpose that really kind of forces our hand as an organization, needing to find competitive advantage, et cetera. So, the why is often discovered through understanding what's really driving the organization change right now. And Rez, I think you hit on an interesting point, right? The investment that's required in real change in an organization, particularly an organization that is of large size or spans the globe, et cetera, is really important. And I think fundamentally, a lot of organizations, the mistake they're making is they're undercutting that investment, right? They're looking at these drivers, these things that they need to do as projects that they're going to have a very finite amount of funding. They've got very limited staff, aka resources, to be able to apply to this. And I think that understanding that investment and understanding where all of their investments are going is a critical blind spot in a lot of organizations.
Yeah, I agree. What I would add to that is you invest because what got you here is not going to get you there. Everybody's heard that phrase. And if you want different results, you want improved performance for your business, you want improved outcomes, you need to make changes in a number of areas to be able to get those improved results. And one of the things that I'll sort of throw out as something that I pretty closely correlate when we start using the transformation word is the term operating model. And I see a lot of different organizations with a lot of different perspectives on what operating model is, what it means, whether it's in scope or not. And within the not too distant past, I had a conversation with a VP of strategy and transformation who, in the same conversation, made two very conflicting statements. One, our CEO and CIO have said getting Agile right is our top priority as a company. Later in that same conversation, I also heard, but we're not looking to make changes to operating model right now.
Mhm.
And so
Yeah.
when we talk about business transformation, that's what we're talking about. Like looking at the entire picture, it's complex. It's an extremely complex space. The other thing I would add to Richard's points is most organizations, at least that I've worked with, sort of have this mindset that their operating model is almost something that they rent versus something that they own. They go engage a top strategy firm to define the next version of their operating model, and they get great insights, they get really great guidance, but the thing that's missing is the own dynamic.
Mhm. Yeah.
This is version 17 of our company operating model, and what we think is important is working within the organization with leaders to really build that ownership dynamic and really understand, how do you continually adapt and evolve your operating model? To me, that's really the ultimate goal of business transformation.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I like what you're talking about also, Randy, around the rent versus own. I mean, too often, one of our colleagues just made this comment yesterday, I believe, with a new client of, just tell us what to do and we'll go do these things. And while I appreciate kind of the base intent behind that, that is a trigger for me, particularly when we're talking about true transformational efforts to really transform the way we operate. If we're simply saying, just tell us what to do, we'll go do it, or sometimes we even get, just do it for us, just go implement these changes for us. That's a renting mentality, and that's not going to create sustainability in most cases. It's not going to create real resilience as an organization. The threats that organizations are facing shouldn't be, DEFCON whatever. They shouldn't be really putting us to the brink of chaos. We should be able to look at these things, anticipate what we're being able to confront as an organization, and then start making those changes or start thinking about those changes. And often it's either that rent versus own mentality, or it's, we need to change, but we can't change certain things. So whether it's our operating model, our hierarchical structures, our core processes, et cetera. So one of the first ways to break through that is to make sure that we're not limiting ourselves to so-called transformation, and we are open to all of the potential opportunities that are in front of us. But that's hard because we've got things that we have to accomplish. We've got expectations that we still have to meet while we're doing this in parallel.